Welcome, everyone, to my next episode of Mental Iron. My name is Lesley Timbol, and I'm here to talk to you about jealousy and bodybuilding. Now, while I am talking about bodybuilding, this isn't just for bodybuilders. This is for anyone in the fitness community, any kind of athlete. It's the whole idea of jealousy in the sport. Now, we're also taught to be good sports. So if we don't do really well, as far as being a good loser, which means you congratulate the winner. Now, that's not what I'm talking about in this particular episode. I'm talking about when we have, let's call it jealousy, envy of someone else's, let's say, strengths in the particular sport. Now, I'm going to be talking about bodybuilding, but again, this can apply to any sport. So I was contacted not long ago by someone who watches the shows, both Mental Iron as well as Iron Therapy. And for those who are watching this or watch this after the fact, we didn't do an Iron Therapy episode today. We usually do them on Mondays. But Dave Palumbo had surgery on his foot recently, and it's taking a little bit longer before he can be back up. Now, I know he did a show with Chris Aceto, but it was a little bit different last night. So we will be back next week for Iron Therapy. So certainly join us for that. But if you guys have questions about jealousy and sports, or just general questions, I'm happy to address them. Just put it in the chat and we can go from there. So, good afternoon, Alaric. How are you? Welcome to the chat. So I don't know if you heard Alaric, but because of Dave's foot surgery, we're not going to be doing the Iron Therapy for today, but I'm doing this Mental Iron piece, but we will be back on next week, Monday, for the Iron Therapy. Now, I want to talk about jealousy because it's very natural to be envious of other people. Once again, I'm going to focus on bodybuilding, but this can apply to any sport. So what I mean by that is it's not unusual when you're a competitor. Let's say you're backstage and you're checking out your competition, and maybe you see that they have a certain strengths that you don't. Maybe whether it be, let's say they have, bigger legs, maybe they have a stronger back, maybe they're a lot drier as far as their conditioning is concerned, maybe their muscle bellies are full, whatever those might be. And it's natural. This is part of our human tendency to say, oh my goodness, they look amazing. I wish I looked like that. That's normal. Now, what happens after that really can affect people. So whether that can deflate you. So what I mean by that is you could be super motivated in the show. You could say, hey, you know what? This is my best package to date that I've ever brought to stage. You go backstage and there's a genetic freak there. Okay. Or again, someone who's presenting with qualities that you find that you don't have. Now, what I do want you to keep in mind is, especially with bodybuilding, not everyone knows how to display their physiques. I myself have faced this numerous times where I saw girls backstage and they definitely looked way better than I did. But because my posing was better than they did, I scored better than they. Now, it's the idea for posing is to highlight your strong features and to try to hide your weaknesses. Again, this requires practicing your posing, which I'll be doing again later on today. But it's about saying, what can you highlight in your qualities? Now, when you have this envy, and it could be whether it's backstage, whether it's on social media, it might be at the athlete meeting and you're doing the comparison. What you're doing is you're comparing your body, your physique to, let's say, a competitor's. And what that can do is that can get into our heads to say, oh, I could never look like that, or I could never beat that person. We'll never say never, because even the best, you take me the GOAT of any industry, the greatest of all time of any industry, they don't win 100% of the time. Because even though they might have a better physique, you don't know, could they spill over? Or if they're super stressed, or they're holding on to water. What I want you to do instead, and again, this is the human tendency for your mind to go there, is to harness it. Think of yourself like, you're in Texas and you're a cowboy, your rodeo, get that sucker back in. Use your lasso and sucker, get that envy back in and say, this is going to motivate me. Not by doing the comparison, by really focusing on my strengths. So if that means you need to remove yourself and go to a different section of the athlete room, if you're in the pump-up area, and just focus on your posing and your routine. If you do a routine, do that. Otherwise, you can get in your head. And the problem is that even if, you're just thinking about that stress on its own raises something called cortisol in your levels, in your hormones. And when you're elevated, when you have elevated hormone levels, your body can't properly assimilate, let's say, the carbs or the water, whatever kind of depletion you might be doing. Things don't go as predictable as possible. Now, it would be nice to say, can you go into a show stress-free? But a little bit of anxiety is fine. It's just learning how to manage the anxiety. So, like I said, it's important to saying jealousy or envy can play a number on people. I don't know if anyone saw pictures of Big Ram. He's been looking really good. I know they're picking on him for certain things, but he's more conditioned than I've ever seen Rami this far out for the Olympia. Now, could he lose the Olympia because he gets in his head too much, which ends up sabotaging his peak week? He could. He wouldn't be the first. He certainly wouldn't be the last, Olympian to do that. However, if he can keep his head on straight, and I'm sure Dennis James is going to help him with that, he'll be able to do really well. Will he win? I don't know. There's a lot of good people bringing their A game. And remember, I've not seen an Olympia yet where every single person was at their 100% on that day. Some are, some aren't. Not because they're not trying to, it's just too much stuff can get in the way. And part of it is the mental game, because we get into our heads. So yes, you want to beat your competition. I'm not saying don't try to win, but be careful where your focus is at that moment. Remember, you have no control over what package someone else brings to the stage. You only have control over what package you bring. And if anything, I want you to use that as motivation to really give yourself that kind of oomph to saying, you know what, they're going to make me sweat. I'm going to make them sweat too. Okay. So use that as motivation rather than having it kind of suck the wind out of your sails, so to speak. Let me just check the chat here. Okay. How do I get back the drive? Okay. As far as, we had to want to hit the weights. Okay, yeah, that happens in my head. Please preach. Okay, yes, I will. I'll talk a little bit more about, hey, Dave, how are you doing? Never look at anyone in your class backstage. Lesley, psychologically, it affects you. That's true. Just concentrate on yourself and put a pair of blinkers on. Dave, that's easier said than done, and I agree with you. But, there's always going to be the corner of your eye where you're checking people out. But I agree. When you catch yourself looking around the room, refocus. It doesn't mean, okay, here's the thing. It'd be nice to say, don't look at anybody. But if you have to go to the bathroom, you actually have to lift your eyes up, see where the bathroom is, and you might see somebody. So it's about saying, when you do see something, reroute your focus on what you need to do. And if you know where the bathroom is and you have to look down, okay, look down. Focus on what you're going to do and what you're going to present on stage. Like, it's a lot of mental rehearsal. It's physical rehearsal. A lot of times people say, Lesley, what's the best way to, what's the best pop-up exercises that I can do backstage? I said, you're posing. Your posing is the best. I know people will do like push-up, like, just body weight push-ups, and they'll have bands, or they have weights, they have free weights backstage. And I'm not saying you can't do that, but to really get, I would say the posing is really, really key into being able to do your proper warm-up, because you're warming up the muscles you're about to contract when you go on stage. So I think that's really important too. Now, Alaric, I want to get to your question as far as how to get back the drive. If you want to hit the weights, well, first of all, let's just say the weights, what is it that's preventing you from being motivated right now? Did life get in the way? Is it trying to coordinate into a schedule? Because I don't know what your life schedule is like. If you don't mind putting a little bit more in the chat so I can help you with that as far as getting back the drive. Because if the drive is time management, then we can go down that path. If it's I could make time, but I just don't have the motivation, that's another area. So if you can let me know which one of those it might fit more closely to, and if it's something completely different, let me know, because I want to make sure I answer that question. But generally speaking, when I see people who have a lack of motivation, it's, why bother going through the motions of something if there's not some type of something to look forward to? And it might, I'm not saying you have to compete. I'm not saying everyone has to compete to go to the gym. Sometimes it's just saying, hey, you know what, to be healthy, or you know what, I want to, let's say, fit into a particular shirt or a particular pair of pants. Have it hang in your closet. Let that be a visual reminder and work to it. Or do you have a neighbor or a friend? And you can challenge yourself saying, let's do a 6 to 8 week challenge. And that also includes eating, getting back on track on an eating plan, because it's hard to, okay, there are people, granted, who let their diet go to shit, but they work out. And I'm not saying working out is bad if you're not going to do the diet as well. It's just that you get better results. Because keep in mind, how you process your food and when you work out is how can you build your muscle. You want to make sure you get your proteins. If all you're eating, and I'm not saying this is you, Alaric, but let's say people are just eating a really garbage diet and they're having a lot of carbs. And I'm not talking about rice or sweet potatoes. Let's say they're having a lot of breads, and I like bread, don't get me wrong, or bagels. Again, those are good too. But if you want to like a lean down, the diet has to kind of fit in there too. So it's kind of having both. I would say, have a little goal in mind. But let me just see what you might have typed in here. Okay, life got in the way. Like my emotions get the best of me. Okay, I'm tired all the time, so maybe I'm not sleeping well. I tend to dwell on certain thoughts from experiences. Okay, how I know things are so, it's a matter of how I can get the drive back and turn my mind around to stay focused on what I enjoy doing. Sometimes, or most of the time, I don't know how to let my emotions not get in the way of my drives. For example, wanting to work out and do the things I want to do. Okay, Alaric, in the perfect world, it would be nice to say, yeah, I feel motivated. I want to work out, so I'm going to work out. In the ideal world. Where we're going to go is somewhere in between. It's I feel no motivation, but I'm going to go anyway. There are times I really do myself like going to the gym, but I'm currently just under 2 weeks out from a show. I'm at a point right now, I am tired of the gym, and I love working out. So for me to get to this point saying, I have to drag my ass to the gym right now because it's not a matter of I want to be at the gym, and normally I do. But because my carbs are so low and I'm close to show, so my body fat levels have gone down, so my energy's gone down. I can't push it as hard, but what makes me go? I have that show. Now, even when it's done, I have another show I'm going to be doing later. But do you have to do a show to be motivated? No, but I think it's good to have accountability. So here's another thing. What about if you have a coach, Alaric? And I don't mean a coach to compete. And again, if you guys want to compete, by all means. But I'm saying you don't have to. I don't want people to think that they have to compete to have a goal. It might be just having the accountability to make sure, let's say you show up at the gym. I know people who literally go to the gym 3 times a week and they see their trainer 3 times a week because that guarantees that they'll be at the gym for 3 times that week. Sometimes when you fall out of a habit, the hard part is getting back in. So let me give you a different example. Sometimes people have a really good schedule where they line up when they're going to work out and they work out regularly. Then let's say there's the holidays or they go on vacation. So they take a little bit of a break from working out and then they come back to it. The problem is coming back to it can really be hard. Some people are like, I can't wait to get back in the gym because when I took that week off, I really missed the gym. Okay. But there's other people are like, oh, it was really nice having that 1 week off. I could sleep in. I got more stuff done. And then it gets harder and harder to get back into that groove. So a lot of times when people say, well, how to get in the groove? I'm just like, do it. It's like cleaning a toilet sometimes. It's not that I like cleaning a toilet. In fact, maybe there are people out there that do like cleaning a toilet. I haven't come across those people, but maybe there are. Hats off to you if you do like cleaning a toilet. But you clean a toilet because it has to get done, not because you necessarily want to. And that's how you may need to get into the mindset to do the workouts initially. But make it realistic. So if you're one of those people who used to train 5 to 6 days a week, start with 3. Pick any 3 days. Ideally, not back to back. If you can do like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, whatever. at least put a couple of days in between, like a day or two in between. Start with 3, make it manageable, make it realistic, and commit to it. Put it in your calendar like you would a doctor or dentist appointment, and block it off. What I do is I set my clothes out. Like I train in the morning. I've already done 3 training sessions, and it's what time is it? 2:30. I've already done cardio session, weights, and a second cardio today. So I like to get it the bulk of my, and later I'll do posing, which by the way is another workout. It's a different type of workout. But so it's, trying to find a time of the day and scheduling it like an appointment in your calendar. I even have pop-up reminders to remind me, but I will get my clothes out the night before, lay out my clothes so I don't have to think. It's just ready to go. And my pre-workout drinks are already made. My post-workout shake is already made. Like, I'm ready to go because I want to wake up and not have to think a lot and just boot it. Just do it. Well, for my first workout's a fasted cardio, so I don't have to eat anything before that. But I know I have everything pretty scheduled. Now, you don't have to be necessarily scheduled. And I'm certainly, Alaric, I'm not suggesting you train 3 times a day. But I'm just saying, even if it's 3 times a week, schedule it like you would a doctor or dentist appointment. Put it in there. Pull out your clothes the day before. And make sure you know that when you go into the gym, what are you going to do? Are you going to do a split, upper body split? Are you going to focus on certain body parts each of those 3 days of the week? Figure out what you're going to do so you just don't arrive at the gym and go, what's available? What do I feel like doing? Have a plan. Have a game plan. If you've trained before, you might be able to take some pieces of exercises of what you've done before, or literally Google, YouTube. There's tons of free stuff out there for workout programs, for suggestions. But start with something. And you might start with something like 45 minutes. 45 minutes, 3 days a week. Start it. And if you end up doing more, okay, you did more, but that's a bonus. So sometimes we have to do these little mental tricks with ourselves to get us to do it, not because we're motivated. It's how do you get yourself to do it when you're not motivated? Because here's where you get motivation sometimes. By doing something you don't want to do and it becomes a habit, then you start missing it when you don't do it. For me, I get 1 day off. I train 6 days a week, so I get 1 day off, and even that day I do cardio. But I get 1 day off, so I really treasure that day off. That's the 1 day I do my big grocery shopping, and I do a lot of cooking that day. I load up on, because I cook a pile of fish and chicken and just put it in Tupperware and put it in the fridge so I can make meals really quickly and heat them up, because I don't have time to make fresh food every day. That's not my schedule. So that's where I get stuff down, but it's very scheduled. I want you to try to scheduling it, not because you want to, because it's just part of your health plan. And it also, I don't know if you experience this, Alaric, so let me know, but I can feel super tired and not have a great sleep, especially because I'm in prep. I'm not getting a lot of sleep because I go to bed hungry. I drink a lot of water, so then I'm peeing a lot. Right now, I'm only drinking 6 liters of water a day, but my coach just told me he's going to up it soon. So especially next week, because it's going to be peak week, I'm going to be drinking a lot of water. So I'll probably be peeing about every 15 minutes. So my workout will take a little longer because I'll be peeing a lot, but that's okay. So I'll keep very, very hydrated. I want you, as far as feeling motivated, if you can find something to inspire you and push you, that's great. But if you can't, then it's about saying, how do I make myself do this, even though I'm not motivated? There's so many things I'm sure that you do that you're not motivated to do, but you do it because you have to. Let me give you another example apart from the toilet, clean the toilet. Paying bills. Who likes paying bills? Who likes paying taxes? I live in Canada. We get taxed to the hilt. I don't like paying taxes. I do it because I have to. I'm not motivated to pay my bills, but I do. So we do things not because we're motivated, but because we need to. And when it comes to the gym, prolonging your life and quality of life, we don't know how long we're going to be on this earth. We really don't. So it's kind of say, can we make it a good quality? Now, we might live to 104, great. But I want to be, a decent 104. I don't want to be like, barely able to stand or want to be functional at 104 if I make it that long. The other thing is, what else can motivate you though? I was talking about how to force yourself when you're unmotivated, but how do you get motivation? I also find motivational, Eric, by watching, there's a lot of motivational bodybuilding videos out there. Machiavelli does a lot. Machiavelli motivation. If you ever Google that, they do a lot of bodybuilding videos. And I find that when you watch those, and they don't even have to be bodybuilding, if you do motivational videos, exercise videos, just watching that can get you excited. I don't know if you've, like, I know when I am not competing in a show, but let's say I'm supporting other people that I know might be doing the show. Even though I'm not in the show, I'm excited for my friends. I'm excited for the athletes that I see on stage. And after seeing a show as an audience member, I'm excited for my show. So sometimes I get motivation just watching other people. So for me, it's going to shows, watching videos. It could be music, putting a good music, a really good, like for me, I like rock and some harder hitting tunes for when I'm at the gym. So I'll have a few kind of playlists that can be helpful too for motivation. So even though you might not be, let's say, in the gym right now, Alaric, let's say after this podcast, you work on, if you have time, you work on a good music mix that you can do when you start working out. That gives you something to look forward to. Just something to think about. Now I just want to check the chat because I was chatting a little bit. Now, as far as life getting in the way, okay, emotions can get the best of me. Okay, this is where I want to go down a little bit more. Okay, let me see it. So as far as, Dave, I'm going to get to your question in a second. I want to make sure I answer Alaric's about the emotions. Life does get in the way, 100%. Life gets in the way, and it can play a number up here. And when it plays a number up here, it can affect our emotions. Our stress levels can go up. We don't cope as well. We can be stressed. That means we even have less motivation to work out. We might eat garbage food because we're getting that, I call it emotional eating. So we kind of get that, we want to feel good, even though we feel bad right now. So what do we do to feel good? We can eat some garbage food. I'm not suggesting you do that, but I understand why people do that. I've done it. I've done that. But it's about saying, okay, life happens. Can you see? Now this might sound a little weird. When life throws you a problem, that's an opportunity that's hidden. You have to find it. It's like a treasure hunt. Do you know what I mean by a treasure hunt? We used to do these as kids. So we would have to kind of look around in the yard, and let's say one of our friends would hide things. We'd have to kind of look in the gardens or a play set if we were in the school or whatever for these little gems, whether they were like Easter eggs, like those mini eggs, or, like little treasures of something positive, like little toys, whatever it might be. So the treasure hunt in a problem, you're like, okay, how can there be a treasure in a problem? Because every time life presents you a problem, it's giving you an opportunity to solve something that has not been solved before. Because sometimes, and I don't know if you've noticed that, but when we have problems in our life, they tend to come up over and over again, maybe in a different form, but sometimes the theme is the same. So I'll give you an example. Relationships. I do a ton of relationship counseling. And a lot of things that come up when the relationship does not go well it's because the person is choosing the same type of person over and over and over again, hoping that the next time it will be different because they're looking for a particular kind of person. So, but they're not willing to try any other approaches. So it's trying to say, okay, what is this trying to teach you? Maybe consider other people too. They might find that their ideal partner in what they were looking for, but maybe not. So it's just trying to say, could there be a lesson that has to be learned that you haven't learned yet? And keep in mind what emotion is. And I'm not talking about the happy emotion. I'm talking about the frustration. I'm talking about maybe disappointment, stress. It's feeling a lack of control or knowing what to do. And that's where it can be helpful to actually kind of clear your mind and go to the gym as an example, or play a sport, hang out with friends, get a distraction. And if you need to, talk to someone like myself to really get to the bottom of what is it and how can you find the treasure. So it's that whole, and you might have heard me say this, as far as making lemonade out of lemons. Lemon is the problem. So how can you extract lemonade? So I add stevia to my lemon. I have lemon water. I'll put a little stevia. Now I'm in prep and close to the show. I won't put stevia. It's just plain lemon water. That's it. The only thing I'll add to my lemon water. So what I'll do is I'll have freshly squeezed lemons, add some water, and I'll add some ginger. And I'll microwave it, stir it so it's warm, and that's what I'll drink. I'll have one of those every day. It would be sweeter with stevia, but again, I'm not going to have stevia this close to the show. But it's trying to say, how can you make it drinkable? Whatever that unpleasant thing that happened to you is, there's a lesson that needs to be learned. And again, sometimes we can't fine tune that to be able to or find the treasure in that. That's where you might need some help in discovering that, because like I said, there's a theme that can come up over and over again about that. But recognize, Alaric, that things that probably happened to you in the past that were not present, or sorry, was not pleasant, but somehow you got through it. So it's that this too shall pass, meaning you will somehow get through this. You will live another day. You might have to make some different choices, maybe choices you didn't want to make. But sometimes when life kind of puts us on a different journey, if we're going down a certain path and life kind of interrupts us and makes us go down a different path, we end up getting a different result that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. It doesn't feel like it at the time. At the time, it's like, why is this happening? This is going to take me longer to get to my destination because now I have to take this detour. Well, maybe you had to take the detour because if you didn't take the detour, you wouldn't have gotten that next piece of the puzzle for your treasure. So sometimes things happen for a reason. I know that sounds really corny, but it can. We don't always know what the reason is, but I do believe things do happen for a reason. But it is important to try to find out what the lessons are, what the treasure is in those problems to help you manage the emotions. So, there are little things that can be very aggravating in life. There can be big things that are aggravating in life. A lot of times we lack appreciation for what we do have. And sometimes life has to throw us a curveball for us to say, hey, you've been complaining a lot. You're not grateful for what you have. And sometimes, whether that be people or certain situations in our life, we take things for granted. I do too. I found myself taking things for granted. We just get into the normal swing of things. And that's part of our default. But again, it's trying to say, what can we learn from it? But Alaric, like I said, if you're having trouble with managing the emotions, certainly we can work together. Just shoot me a DM if you want, and then we can coordinate something later. If you want to do it on your own, by all means, do that. That's fine. But I just want you to be aware that sometimes when negative things happen, they're actually gifts in disguise. They're opportunities, basically, that haven't been explored yet. Okay, so hopefully that helps. If you have more questions, though, just post it in the chat. So, Dave, you asked me, okay, so what is your realistic goals you have set for yourself at the Amateur Female Physique Olympia? Okay, because it's amateur, if it was the pro show, that would be different, but I'm an amateur, so I want my pro status. In order to get pro status at the Amateur Olympia, I have to win overall. The way women's physique works is that they're height classes. So for every height class, there's going to be an overall winner. Then they take the overall winners of all the height classes for women's physique, and then they compete on stage, all the overall winners, and the top 3 will get the pro cards. Now, this is from all over the world. I did this last year, and the girls who beat me, who I was more conditioned than they were, however, their legs were bigger. So I've been really working hard at trying to really hit my legs hard. Now, keep in mind, my genetics aren't the same as other people's. A lot of the people I compete against are from Brazil and some other countries where they're naturally born with bigger legs, but that's okay. I still do my best. I'm not going to not compete because of that. So do I want my pro card? Yes. Am I going to try for it? Of course I am. But if I don't get it, at least I know I'm going to bring my best package to date. That's the goal. So I do think I could be in the top 3, Dave, honestly, because of what I'm bringing. I'll have a good idea, and because I'm doing a show, my regional show is in 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks. So I'll see how I look at that point, because I've been feeling, well, it's hard because I'm depleted, so I can't see. I don't look pumped up at all, so it'd be interesting to see what I look like. And then 10 weeks later, I step on stage at the Olympia, so we'll see how that goes. And for me, it's because of my, I'm going to be in a great environment. I'm going to be training at the Dragon's Lair, which is a great gym in Vegas. The Olympia is in Vegas this year. I don't know, it's a good feeling. But like I said, if I don't, it's not going to crush me. I'll likely try again next year, because I think that's the last show of the year. And then we'll see how it goes. I hope that answers your question, Dave. How does one keep their mind in a good place so negative thoughts can't sneak in? I'm glad you subscribe to those motivation channels, Larry. They're really good. Wow, you're tough. What did I say that was tough? What did I say? I don't even remember. Okay. Makes sense. You're going to be great. Thank you, Larry. You're welcome, Dave. How does one keep their mind in a good place so negative thoughts can't sneak in? Okay, that is a great question, Alaric. I want to repeat it so people can, if I didn't say that out loud. How does one keep their mind in a good place so negative thoughts can't sneak in? It's not about keeping negative thoughts out. It's knowing what to do with them when they come in. It's kind of like if I see a spider walk across my, well, they're not going to walk. If I see a spider that's in my place, I escort it nicely as much as I can outside my front door. If that can't happen, and forgive me for people who like spiders, I will kill it and flush it down the toilet. So it's not about preventing insects from coming into my place. It's about what do you do when they happen. So think of it like a negative thought. We can't stop negative thoughts from coming in. Now we can try to pivot our thoughts so when it does come in, what do? So it comes in. I know you're a negative thought. You're not going to help me. This kind of thinking. Let me give you an example. Me being at the Amateur Olympia. Let's say I'm backstage. Let's say I see these girls with these big quads and hamstrings that there's no bloody way I can compete with. Okay. So that could be a negative thought saying, oh, they're going to beat me because they have bigger legs, because the girls with bigger legs beat me last year. That's a possible thought that could come in my mind. But this is what I would do with it, Alaric. I would say, okay, but their legs are bigger. I'm more conditioned. My biceps are bigger this year, and so's my back. I've also been working on my posing, because I think I lost points in my posing last year. So I've been working on my posing. So I'm bringing stuff better too. So they might be bringing in better legs. This is what I'm bringing to the table. So I'm not saying I'm not thinking the negative thought. I'm saying, what do I do with it? Saying, okay, they're bringing in bigger legs than I am. I'm going to acknowledge that. Kudos to them. They worked probably their butts off. But I'm bringing a good package too. It's not diminishing what you bring to the table. You might bring something different to the table, but you're still bringing stuff to the table. You're not going to be competing if you didn't try. Most people just don't wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to compete at the Amateur Olympia. No, yeah, it takes some work, it takes some planning. Unless you're a complete genetic freak, which let's assume that most of us are not genetically gifted, or we're not as gifted as many other people. It takes work. It does take work. But like when you have negative thoughts, let's talk about, let's say something outside of the Olympia, outside of sports completely, just negative thoughts. People have negative thoughts in general. Actually, you know what, Alaric, can you give me an example of a negative thought you're struggling with? something that you feel okay with me talking about in the chat, can you just put it down, and then I'm going to address this particular one because I want to make sure I give you something that resonates with you. Adding ginger with lemon water, I can't do that. Okay, so let me explain the ginger. I'm not taking the hard ginger, that it looks kind of freaky, like, and then you have to peel it. I get the minced ginger in a jar, so I don't even have to mince it or anything. So I literally take a teaspoon in the jar of minced ginger and plop it in the water, mix it up, and that's how I have it. And so it's not too bad, actually. I really enjoy the ginger and the lemon water. That's myself, though. Now, maybe you're not a ginger fan, period. If you don't like ginger, then I can appreciate that. Do you have to have ginger in your water? No, that's just something I do. Let's see. Mark, hey, Mark. Yes, using boss's account today. I love that, Mark. Don't get fired because of me, Mark, okay? Please. Okay, yes, I wish I was a genetic freak like Nick Walker or even Lee Priest. Okay, don't even get started. Lee, oh my gosh. Now, Lee and Nick Walker do train really hard. There's no question about it. But do they grow bloody fast? Yes. Like Lee, have you seen? He was retired. I don't know if you saw pictures where he was retired. And then he did this transformation with Dave Palumbo. And he looks amazing. And I don't even know if he was on the diet that long. He's off the diet now, or he cheats on it, from what I understand. But he looks fantastic. Fantastic. Nick Walker is exploding. I don't know if his back is bigger than Rami's, but it might be close. And the thing is with Nick has been working on his waistline. Mind you, when I saw the pictures of Rami, it looks like he is too. So it's going to be a really interesting Olympia. But yeah, they're genetic freaks, but they do train hard. There's no question about it. Mark, can you touch on dealing with major injuries or chronic, like what Dave P is going through that impedes his causing? Okay, skills need to help cope with. With depression. Okay, injuries. Yes, Mark, that's a great question. Injuries. So whether they're chronic or not, is remembering what is within your control. So let's say you have, so Dave Palumbo just had foot surgery. For those of you who are watching who don't know, he just had foot surgery, and that's why we were able to do iron therapy. He literally just got back from the hospital yesterday. I think it was even last night. So, I told him, rest up, focus on your recovery, and we'll look about doing iron therapy next Monday. So I know he appreciated that because I want him to rest and really work on his recovery, because it's a really major surgery. They had to fuse his foot. That's where they put a rod. Anyway, I won't go into details. Basically, it's not a fun surgery. So, of course, that's going to be having some type of impact on Dave's mind. But it's knowing he got through the surgery. Because remember, doing any kind of surgery, we have to look for our blessings. Not everyone comes out of surgery better than when they go in. Sometimes there's complications from surgery. Sometimes people don't wake up. I mean, there's worst case scenarios out there. But even if in the best of scenarios, it's still going to be a long recovery, and that can play a number up here. So Dave won't be able to do much with his feet, but guess what? There's nothing wrong with his upper body. He can still do, let's say, arm work. He can still, there's certain things that he can do. I mean, he's going to have to do some physio, obviously, but it's focusing on what you can do versus what you can't do. And it's learning how to accept, not accept the new limitations, because we're so used to, I used to be able to do this, this, and this. Okay. Yeah, you're going to miss that. It's almost like we have to grieve that we can't do that for a period of time. And it might, let's say it's chronic. Okay, you may never be able to do that. Now, there's something called stem cells. Now, I know that's certainly not in Canada. I don't think it's in the States. I want to say Mexico, but I could be incorrect. Basically, not in North America, there's a lot of stem cell stuff going on. So whether that can help with chronic injuries later on, assuming you had the money, that's a possibility. But let's assume that that's not the case, it's learning how to live with the new reality. Because whether it's injuries, whether it's getting, let's say, with age, you can get certain kind of health conditions. You don't have to like it, but it's learning how to adapt to the change. And again, focusing on what you can control versus what you can't control. I don't know if that helps, Mark. Skills to cope with it. Again, a big part of it's accepting it. You might have to go through a bit of a grieving process about what you can't do, but then when you grieve it, you let it go. Now, some people can't let it go because you keep focusing on, but I used to be able to do this. Okay, do you want to live in the past or do you want to live in the present? Because the more you spend your time, remember what, I think I posted this on my Facebook at one point, maybe the quote, I think I changed the quote. And I'm trying to remember who said it, but something like time flies, good thing you're the pilot. So what I mean by that, and I didn't say that, by the way, I'm quoting somebody who said that. What that means is time goes really quickly, but we also are making choices on how we spend the time of what we have left. So are you going to make the choice? If I said to you, you've got 20 years left to live, and you might have more than that. I'm just pulling a number out of the air. Let's say I said you have 20 more years left to live. Do you want to spend 20 years lamenting about all the stuff that you used to be able to do that you can't do now? Or do you want to kind of grieve, get it out of your system, and then work on what you can do? How are you going to spend the last 20 years of your life? Do you want to do it with regret, or do you want to do it by building some new memories? It's a choice. Easier said than done. But as far as coping, it's giving yourself some hope as if I make the choice to focus on the past, I'm only making myself worse, mentally and physically. Physically, because even just the stress of thinking about it is going to cause a bit of a chemical hormonal imbalance in your body. That's a choice. Or am I going to make the choice of saying, okay, it sucks I can't do that anymore. I really wish I used to be able to do that. I was really good at that. But this is what I'm going to do instead. What is that instead? What can you do? And that's the focusing on what you can do versus on what you can't do. See this as an opportunity that maybe the trajectory of your life is supposed to change, and it wouldn't have changed if everything stayed the same. Something to consider. Let me know, guys, if you have further questions about what I'm talking about, okay? Let's see. Oh, Arshia, welcome. Nice to see you again. It's been a while. Okay, Alaric. Okay, yeah, here's one. People at work really get under my skin, and I always let their behavior bother me or upset me, and it ruins my day because I can't stop thinking about it. Okay, when people at work are getting under your skin, can you give me an example of what they're saying? Maybe you write that down. Hold on. Certain people that I work with at the factory will give me static, and even though I brush them off, I still think about it and dwell on it, and it upsets me, and I can't stop thinking about it. So how do I not think about it? When you say the people at the factory give you static, what do you mean by that? Can you just, whatever they're doing, I want you to be aware of what's happening. We can't control what someone else says or does, but we can control how we respond. So if someone says something to me or does something, let's say I'm at the gym. Sorry, I'm using a lot of the gym examples because I pretty much live at the gym at this point. If I'm at the gym and let's say I'm supersetting between two machines or two exercises, and then someone, when I'm at one exercise, takes my weights and and maybe they do a set, which I don't care if I'm not using it, but maybe they take them, they put it away, not realizing I was using it. Okay, it might be a bit of an irritation because it's kind of like now I have to go and get them and I'd explain. That's an irritation, but am I going to let it bother me? If I can put myself in someone else's shoes, that can help. So let me give you an example, Lyric. If someone has to, and there's always going to be someone out there who likes to push buttons, not because they're trying to be nice about it. They can be unkind people, and they almost get off on making other people miserable. So it's not that they tease them in a funny, friendly way. They can be mean. And I don't know if that's what you're going through, Alaric, so let me know. But if that's the case, to saying, I actually feel sorry that if someone has to be that mean to feel good in their day, they must be living a really shitty life. They must be really miserable if they have to make other people feel so miserable. Now, I'm not justifying how they're treating you or treating anyone else for that matter. But for someone who's really unhappy to snap at you or treat you unfairly or unkindly, they're probably going through themselves something. So I'd say, like, in my mind, I would say a little prayer for them and be able to let it go. I don't take it personally. You're assuming that these people, when they say or do something to you, Lyric, that think of it kind of like an attack, not necessarily a physical attack, but maybe a verbal, mental, emotional attack. Is it necessarily personal, or is it because you're just there and they want to vent on you? I'm not saying it's right that they do that, but you're making the choice to whether you accept it or not, and to say, hey, if you're going to do this to me, I won't accept that. That's unacceptable. And it's fine to stand up to say, hey, I don't appreciate you. Every time you walk by me, you bump my elbow. I don't appreciate that. I'm not causing a fight. I'm just standing up for myself. Sometimes being assertive can be helpful. If I know a little bit more specifics, I think I can nail it down for you a little bit better. Blair, let me see if you said that something in the chat though. Arshia, okay, can we use a little bit of jealousy as fuel to improve in our lives? I was very jealous when I was a kid and I was successful at a time, but over the years, I tried to somehow purge this emotion. Okay, Arshia, yes, absolutely you can use jealousy to propel you forward, because what you can do is recognize, and I'm going to do a video. If I get time, there's something I have to do after this. I do this live. If I get time later on today, I'm going to do a little video, a little bit more on explaining a little bit more about the jealousy and tips to overcome the jealousy. But yes, one of the things is to recognize that you can use this as a fuel, not in a negative way, but in a positive way, to saying, okay, they have this that's better than me. Okay, whether I can get to that status or not, or I can obtain whatever they have or not, I've got my own lane. This is where I'm going to excel at. Because remember, a lot of people will excel at different things. So when put it this way, if you're looking at somebody else because they have something you don't, or they're able to attain something you can't or haven't at this point in time, I want you to be aware that someone out there is looking at you with the same eyes. Not because you're trying to be obnoxious, not that you're trying to, be arrogant or anything like that, but there's always going to be someone who wishes they had something about you, and you're like, why would you want that? You don't know what other people are thinking. So that jealousy, I want you to recognize is it really the jealousy, or is it a skill that you have to just learn how to fine tune? They might be a little bit more gifted at it, because some people are better. Let me give you an example. Public speaking. Not everyone is great at public speaking. That's okay. Now, some people are natural public speakers. They're very outgoing. They know how to connect with people. They don't have an issue with talking. And other people, let's say it might be part of their job, they have to really work up the courage to get out there and talk to a bunch of people. You can still learn these skills. You might be jealous that it's not natural to you, but it doesn't mean you can't get there. And here's the thing, when you learn things the hard way, I'm going to go back to bodybuilding. People who start competing and they go right on gear are at a disadvantage compared to those who start natural and then do the gear. Now, there are people who start natural and stay natural, and that's perfectly fine. But let me explain my statement there. People who start on gear right away are not maximizing their natural potential. So by the time their window for using the gear, as far as the health risk, and there's a health risk regardless if it's small or a large amount of gear, they're shortening that window, because the more often or the length of time that you use gear, the less effective it becomes. So then you have to increase that level, increase as far as the amount of gear or the type of gear that you have to use. So I want you to keep in mind that the sooner you start gear, that clock starts ticking. If you can delay that clock ticking by trying to maximize your natural potential first and then do the gear, if you choose to do gear, that would be the better route. People who go straight to gear, they short-change themselves because they're already shortening their bodybuilding career, because they're inviting a whole bunch of health risks earlier because they didn't maximize their potential. So it's actually, sometimes it's a disadvantage for people who have that genetic potential, or for people who have certain gifts. And I don't mean just for bodybuilding, but where things come easier for them. Let's say, as an example, money. Let's say you grew up in a neighborhood where you had some friends that had, and maybe their parents had a lot of money, so they could give their kids whatever they wanted. And let's say you grew up, and I'm just making this up, Lyric, that you grew up in a family where, everyone, like, they were just, living paycheck to paycheck. You had to share your bedrooms and clothes and all this other stuff. And you're like, gosh, I wish we were like so-and-so's parents, because they didn't have to work so hard and all this stuff. Well, guess what? Because you learned how to go to school and get a job, you already got some work experience on your resume that they don't. You already know a lot of life skills that they don't, because they were given stuff on a silver platter. They were shortchanged because everything was given to them on a platter. They don't appreciate what they've got. Now, some people will be able to ride that out because they have a lot of money, but they'll never grow. They'll never grow on a fundamentally personal growth level than someone who has less advantages. So when you're jealous, be careful. Be careful what you wish for, because if you just get it, you may get some consequences you didn't anticipate. Sometimes the harder road is the better road, because you pick up stuff along the way you wouldn't have otherwise if it was an easy road. Just something to think about. Let's see. So Arshia, yes, definitely you can and again, I'm going to do it. I think I'll try to do a video later today, and I'll post it. If not today, I'll try to post it by tomorrow, about some tips on the jealousy, because I want to go into it in a little bit more detail. Rajiv, nice to see you. Do you find that there is a correlation between recreational drug use and bodybuilding, because we inject ourselves with illegal drugs? So do you feel we lose the fear of drug use and the fear of needles? Now, there is some recreational drug use with bodybuilding. Not all bodybuilders do recreational drugs. But because I know a lot of people who don't bodybuild and use recreational drugs too. But because they're more used to it, they're more used to putting substances in their bodies, they have less fear over it. I could see that happening. Alaric, oh, you gave me an example. Some of the guys will watch the way I work, and if it's not the exact same way they do it, but come over and comment on it and act as if what I'm doing is wrong. Well, put it this way, Alaric, if what you're doing is right, and they're just doing it a slightly different way, and they're going to make a comment saying it's not the way they do it, there's two different approaches. You can either ask, well, what's your approach? What's your approach? And either they can tell you, and they say, what do you like about that approach versus the way I'm doing it right now? Go into kind of a neutral investigator mode and see how they respond. Now, one of two things can happen. They can get on their little high horse. And what I mean by that is they can look down on you and say, well, you're doing a crappy job. My way of doing things is better than yours. Or depending on the line of questioning, if you really seem genuine about getting your questions answered, they might say, oh, he's actually interested in learning about this. And they might be a little bit more friendly towards you. So it can go one of two ways. Now, let's say it's the former way, the first way. They're just being jerks. They say, okay, fine. We both get the job done. You do it your way, I'll do it my way. That's it. No harm, no foul. But you're letting them get to you because they're basically being a bully. Do you know how to get rid of a bully? You don't take the bait. Not externally, but also not internally. That's the trick, Alaric. Because right now, I think, understandably so, you're taking it personally to say, why are they picking on me? I'm minding my own business. I'm doing my work. There's no reason why they have to do that. What goes through my mind, Alaric, is if someone's at work and they're taking the time out of their schedule to watch what you're doing and criticize it, how miserable would their life be? My guess is somehow they've been bullied at home. Maybe when they were a kid, they were bullied. I would have a hard time, especially if they have to get other people. They need an audience. That's a more reflection of him. And frankly, I would feel sorry for him because he's going to have a lot of issues with social relationships if he's that kind of way. So sometimes I understand why you would get upset, you get angry, you get frustrated. Absolutely. Absolutely. But if you can put a different lens on and saying, wow, if this is what he has to do to feel good about his day is to actually pick on my work, I'm so glad I'm not him. I'm so glad my life is better that I don't have to do that to other people. I don't feel it's necessary to do it to other people, and that I don't need an audience to do it. Because I'll tell you right now, bullies are very insecure. So you may feel insecure. I'm telling you as a mental health professional, he's more insecure than you are. 100%. 100%. So keep that in mind, that he's just showing his weaknesses by showing you bravado. If you can see through that, try to hide your laughter when you see he's being so obvious, but try to get in that mindset. Give it a whirl and let me know how it goes. All right, so they just don't know how to find their own business. Yeah, these are the people, Lyric, that are always going to have to work for somebody. They don't know what true hard work is, nor do they have to appreciate it. You spend as little time, and it's just kind of like an annoying mosquito. It's like flick. It's kind of like, okay, you guys do things your way. I'll do them my way. Cool. And also, how you shut up a bully is you just agree with them. My way's better. Okay. How's he going to fight with you? You just said, okay. Just something to think about. Okay. Arshia, now I can't even get jealous and I'm a loser. You're not a loser. Come on, Arshia. You're welcome, by the way. Mark, awesome advice and insight. Really appreciate you and your Oh, you're welcome, Mark. And yeah, guys, just feel free to post any types of questions, of course. And you're welcome, Alaric. But let me know how that advice goes. And as I've said to you guys before, if there's specific situations, I want to really tailor. Because when someone asks me questions, there's so many different angles I can take depending on the particular situation. So I want to respect your privacy, but whatever details you can share, then I can kind of be a bit more detailed in my answers. But I'm getting close to the 1 hour and I've got a client coming up. So guys, I'm going to be here next week. Dave and I are going to be doing iron therapy next week, Monday. We usually do it around, now again, because of Dave's foot situation and follow-up appointments, we usually do it around 2-ish. So when we're done, it's about half an hour. Then I come on here on mental iron. So if I'm not here at 2:30, it just means probably Dave and I are still doing the show. I usually, we try to do it live, but sometimes we have to tape it for various reasons. So know that there will be a show next week. And it might be a shorter show just because that's going to be my peak week. So my energy level may not be that high, so don't take it personally. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting. But yes, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So let's see. Dave, what would you say is the best supplement to take that is non-steroid, Lesley? I'm thinking of breaking the bank and getting some creatine. Creatine is good, Dave, honestly. And I know that the prices of creatine has gone up. Now, check Amazon. Whether you do Amazon Prime, like diet.ca.com. I've been using it with the Mutant. Well, there's different types of creatine actually you can look into. But yeah, I do recommend creatine 100%. I also recommend fermented L-glutamine. Not just the L-glutamine fermented because it's a better quality. It's kind of like whey protein versus whey protein isolate. The isolate's a higher quality and a cleaner blend. For sure. And that's why people don't react as much to the whey protein isolate versus the whey protein. But fermented L-glutamine is another one I would recommend. But creatine definitely, for sure. Oh, Montav, nice to see you. Hey, Lesley, people started to notice changes and they're asking how I'm doing this. It's because you're following a plan, you're staying accountable, you're still taking progress pictures, and you're going to show them, Montav, you're really going to show them. Alaric, thank you very much for this live stream Q&A. You're highly appreciated, Lesley, and I share your channel constantly with as many people as I can. You're truly a gem in the bodybuilding world. Larry, thank you so much. You're so kind. I really appreciate you sharing the content. The idea is I'm trying to get to as many people out there as I can. I'm horrible at marketing. I'm good at counseling and coaching. I'm horrible at marketing. So that's where that's where I could use some help. Rajiv, thanks. Really refreshing to see you live. You really inspired me. Thank you, Rajiv. I appreciate that. And in the rest of the world, yes, creatine works well. Okay, guys. Like I said, I'm going to be back for another Q&A. I will try to get a video out more about the jealousy and tips to overcome the jealousy. If not later today, then by tomorrow at the latest. So if you subscribe to my channel and you do, if you do not just subscribe, I think it's a subscribe and the bell. You have to do both. To give, because I had people said I subscribed, but I didn't do the bell and they weren't notified of the new video. If you subscribe and do the bell, then you'll be notified when the new video goes up. So again, it'll be later on today, or worst case tomorrow. It will be tomorrow, but I'll try to shoot that today about the jealousy and give you some tips on how to overcome that. Okay. So once again, guys, thanks for joining me. You guys are great. If everyone can hit the thumbs up button, that's great. The like button helps with the algorithm and to get this word out, and hopefully people can watch it. And if you have ideas for, let's say, next week, whether it's on mental iron or iron therapy, just post it in the comments below, especially for people who aren't going to be able to watch this until after the fact. But once again, guys, I really appreciate, and one day I would love to meet you all. That would be so cool. Do this in person. That would be awesome. So once again, thanks so much for joining me, everyone. Thank you for your questions. Thanks for the kind words. I really appreciate it. And remember, keep your mental game on. Have a great day, everyone. Bye for now.